Alright, response video sort of on the value subject in general. Um, Towards the end of this video, I suppose I'll put on some walk and talk videos. This might be a very long video that I did, but I had some camera issues, so some of it might be redundant and whatever. It's just going over these three elements to this point that's being made here, this argument about value. The first point is that I'm sentient. That's my testimony. Um, for me, it's quite obvious. You have these positive and negative feelings. The negative feelings can be torturously awful. You'd pay very much money to avoid them. They're of definite value, not just to me. It's my claim that their value is universal, absolute. They cannot be ignored by an intelligence. An intelligent being could not ignore the fact that when something is feeling what I'm feeling, it's a significant event in the universe, kind of thing. And then the second thing you do is just do that logical thing where you say, yes, the other humans are doing the same thing. I'm not special. I know what evolution is. I know how I got here. I'm not doing something different than they're doing. We have common language to talk about this stuff. It's quite verified that this takes place with all the humans who are doing this. And then the third step is just recognizing that all the sentient creatures, the feeling creatures, are doing this thing, and it doesn't really matter why we feel a certain thing. It just matters that we do. Okay, I mean the pride that a gorilla feels is, for specific reasons to gorillaing. The pride that a gazelle feels, or a, wildebeest, or it doesn't matter. A lion. The good days, the bad days, they're having emotionally rich experiences. They're feeling powerful sensations, and it means something when that happens. And I know it means something because it means something when it happens to me. And it's just logic. So this is all just logic based on stuff that happens that's not debatable. It's just not debatable that I'm consciously experiencing, and I don't think it's reasonably debatable that the other humans are doing that also, and that I don't think it's reasonably debatable that the animals are also having a very rich feeling life. And this is what has to be managed and exchanged in this game we are playing. This is the money of the game. This is the commerce of existence, is this exchange of feeling states. I think that's just fundamentally a sound description of the reality of our circumstance. I don't think there's a reasonable alternative explanation for what's taking place here. Good enough. So anyway, so that's what those other videos are doing. It's just what I just did in a few other different words, perhaps. So this my name guy was commenting on my video, I suppose, and Anna Conavad chimed in. There's a few comments here, so I figure I'll just read some of this stuff. I haven't read it yet, so we'll just be surprised together. You do a lot of yelling about how people should understand things, but your message is in need of much refinement. Yeah, well, I might argue, I might say that yes, that's perhaps true, but I really don't know if it is true. I'm arguing with isolated nihilist kooks, in my opinion. I mean, I just really don't believe that most people need it explained to them that suffering sucks. They might need it explained to them that there's no God. They might need a lot of other things explained to them, but suffering sucking, I think they can get that. For example, on your message that the dollar is valuable because you have to sweat for it and that sucks. It's valuable for other reasons. No, it's only valuable because money gains its value for the blood and everything else that has to be sacrificed to gain it. It's the thing that'll buy comfort, and it has to be bought with the price. The debt has to be paid in terms of the value in is the sacrifice that makes it. The fact that you have to compromise your life to earn the power of it. But its value, you could, it should be printed in red to signify blood. It should be printed in something that makes it more, the images on it should be workers laboring, people dying in coal mines, all the kinds of things that we gain through this commerce, this exchange. And the money is just a representation of that exchange. People exchange a risk, and they get a reward for the risk. I don't think that's I don't think that's complicated. Because I have invested into something does not make it valuable. I didn't say it did I? Did I say what you spend money on is valuable? No, I said the money has value. It represents the exchange rate. So yeah, you can spend it foolishly if you wish. You can squander and waste suffering, and that's basically my point. Is the reason why the world is the way it is because people don't appreciate what they're wasting and what they're squandering. They don't appreciate the risk they're taking. They don't appreciate the pain they're creating. According to my thinking, or at least if I am to be respect, if I am to be respect and be influenced by the economic idea of sunken cost. I don't know what that means. I'm just saying that the economy of life is what I said. It has a currency, and the currency is the exchange of comfort. Is basically what gets exchanged. People have to sacrifice comfort to get the money to buy comfort. Too much yelling, well, whatever, fuck you. Calm down and collect yourself. No. Look, you assholes are living in a delusion, and you're creating mountains of unnecessary torture on this planet. You're advocating for it, you're permitting it, you're facilitating it. I shouldn't be calming down. If I had any real integrity, okay, I wouldn't be just talking the talk. I'd be riding the bulldozer over your fucking, never mind. Yelling your message does not make it correct. Well, I don't give a damn. I don't give a fuck. I'm certainly arguing in defense of it most of the time, making logical arguments. If you can't make a distinction between those two things, then you're probably too stupid for the conversation anyway. You probably don't know really what conversation is if that kind of crap is going to trip you up. And you happen to be yelling an incorrect message on my approximation. It's in my approximation would probably be a better way to say that, or just say in your opinion, because I don't think your approximation has anything to do with doing any kind of real analysis. I don't, and certainly you're saying incorrect message. You're not going to provide any evidence of anything incorrect. So I say you're lame as your name and your non-existent icon. You're just a faceless, naysaying, nitpicking, trolly piece of crap as far as I'm concerned, in my estimation, in my approximation. You're just trolly crap. Okay, Raya K. It's a good guy, I think. Why can you not address the main points instead of just nitpicking his currency metaphor? If it's so wrong, it should be easy for you to refute. Here we go. I did address his main point as I saw them in my other posts. You didn't address anything in your other posts. They were just more crap rhetoric. I read one of your comments in some other comment video. It was garbage. This example is one of many that I could have made. He gets himself all worked up and the message becomes more obscure as he increases the pressure that we are all supposed to just understand exactly what he's talking about, and a dysfunctional argument. Well, again, I think it's adequately functional, and why would I take advice from somebody I would rather see, buried in a volcano? Why would I take your advice, asshole? Why? You're the enemy, shithead. yeah, I don't need your advice. You don't. All you addressed was the knife stuck in the eye thing and saying he shouldn't be telling people not to have children. You don't give any logical evidence refuting his points. The rest just nagging about his delivery and message. That's exactly true. No logical evidence. You think I'm being illogical? Yeah, I think you're worse than illogical. You're a waste of time now. Yeah, now you're just playing word games. You haven't stated much besides. I don't think Gary is right. I'm asking what? Okay, here we go. Many things, but at it's always many things that remain unnamed. But at the time, some things that jump out to me. The example I gave was just a random sample where I can contrast his ranting to something which is contrary and more insightful. Well, amazing. That is absolutely useless drivel. So that's not a counter-argument to anything I've said. Again, you're not counter-arguing anything. He does not ask what people would say on particular issues. Yeah, I couldn't care less what people are saying. I'm explaining what logically seems quite obvious to me. The logical connections between these words, these concepts, these properties, and the obvious conclusions they point to. And I do say they're all kind of obvious. Okay, the only way you can miss it is you're trying to miss it. The truth isn't hard to see. You people just don't want to see it. But tells them what they would say. Further, as he does so, he paints people as vehement adversaries. Well, I'm sorry, you're torturers. Okay, advocating for torture. I don't really understand. What about that behavior should somebody not be vehemently adversarial towards? I think you are causing unnecessary, selfish, silly, for perfectly self-indulgent reasons, imposing torture, you fucking idiot. So yeah, I hate every bit about your guts. Most especially the stupidity of your neural network that can't recognize that torture is not an acceptable imposition. You have no right to give people torture. You might have a right to give them a cupcake, even if they didn't ask for it, but you certainly have no right to give them torture they didn't bargain for. He seems to always assume that if anybody is not saying exactly what he is saying, well, I'm sorry. Yes, I seem to assume that until somebody proves me logically incorrect, that, yes, I'm going to look at opposing statements as being incorrect. That's right. Until they demonstrate that they have some sort of merit, or, you know, that your suggestion that Bugs Bunny controls the universe, well, prove it, or, yeah, I'm going to ignore it. They must be saying the exact opposite. Well, look, you know, there's a simple truth to the argument. You know, you're either for us or you're against. You know what I mean? You're either stopping slavery or you're facilitating its existence. It's just the way it works out. Same with welfare horror-y, and you can go right down the list. You're either for drunk drivers or you're against drunk drivers. But you really can't do both, because if you're sitting on the fence, you're being an impediment to getting it done. You're an impediment to getting the thing fixed. You're in the way. So there's no neutral place to sit and pretend you're not helping the enemy, because you are. The validity of his absolute claims regarding the moral and ethical, I never use, like I said, I really don't use the word moral, and ethical backwardness of people who have children is based on a string of assumptions. Okay, so again, the assumptions are that you know, you have some right to take your fantasy theory and tell somebody else to live it. You have some right to do something that has intrinsic risk in it and impose that risk on something else when you have no way to clean up the mess. No insurance policy, nothing. But you will put somebody else on the rickety roller coaster, as I've used that example, and that's what it comes down to. If that was the real circumstance, people would pass a law against it. I'm sorry, they would. They'd say you can't be putting kids on rickety roller coasters with no insurance. But because you're all committed to doing your thing, you've decided to pretend it's not a rickety roller coaster, and that you pretend you have insurance and pretend that the worst isn't going to happen. And it's a lie, it's a delusion, and it's nonsense. And you should be called on it. You're hypocrites. You're duplicitous hypocrites. A string of assumptions and conclusions that themselves are not absolute. Well, I'm sorry, the absolute fact that you can't control the experiment is a fact. And until you fix that, you got no business playing with it. Until you have mastered this science. It's like nuclear power plants and the rest of it. You got no business making one unless you can be damn sure it's going to work. It is very easy at innumerable points in the argument to justify divergent paths. Again, where are you going to diverge? There's evolution. There's a sentient biological mechanism created for the purpose of facilitating a gladiator war with huge attrition rates. You're not going to undo any of that. So why should I, in this sense, accept the one path when I see an entire tree? Well, because it's illogical, that's why. If there was, there's 50,000 gods out there, right? 20,000 religions of some kind, something like that. Does that mean it's a good tree because it has lots of fruit on it? No, it's all bad fruit. And, sorry, you're living a lie. Okay, name these assumptions and why you think they are wrong. You're too vague. You keep saying it's so easy, then it should be easy. Okay, to be specific, here we go. Name the assumptions and why you think they are wrong. Pick a starting point that you like, and we can work from there. Oh, Christ. You're just playing games. You're just wrong. Antiphod chimed in here. A heretic. So he's saying that to this. You're just wrong. I don't know. It's another one of his. Well, that's a really informative comment. Another Antiphod remark to my name guy. He seems to always assume that if anybody is not saying exactly what he is saying, they must be saying the exact opposite. Okay, here we go. It looks that way, but he is so incredibly persistent that I suggest that he is probably sincere. And why would my sincerity be suspect in this? Yeah, I just don't understand. Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying that clearly it's reasonable for somebody to say that, like in the French Revolution or in the slavery thing or in all those things, some bystander, someone who just sits on the somebody who just takes a pass on doing their part to fix the problem. It seems quite reasonable for somebody who's doing the work, who's going to die in the fucking war, to maybe spit on the as he walks by on the assholes who are going to live in the better future being provided to them by the sacrifices these other people are making. So yeah, even that kind of scenario. But I mean, this idea that, there's only really two sides, right and wrong. There's no fucking shit in the middle. There's shit in the middle. Yeah. So you can be shit, but you're either right or you're wrong or you're shit. And being shit is the same as wrong. Anyway, his mind may simply work in that starkly binary fashion. It's always binary, like, oh yeah, there's yes and no answers, there's right and wrong, there's good and bad, there's up and down, there's left and right. Yeah, gee, I'm so binary. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's a hurdle that anyone examining his position has to read more. How exciting. Somehow negotiate. Again, I just don't. I'm sorry, but yeah, it never even occurred to me that there would be a philosophy out there, some sort of legitimate philosophy called, I don't know, wishy-washy. I don't really know. I mean, that always seemed to me the only people who would do the wishy-washy thing were the people who had no clue. They were just stupid or ignorant. So they couldn't form an opinion because they didn't have any information with which to do it with. They were ignorant or stupid. So yeah, if you want to take that, if you want to claim you're too stupid to make a philosophical argument, well, okay, go ahead and make that claim. But don't pretend I'm smart, yet I can't figure it out. I mean, come on, that's lame as fuck. Maybe the light bulb will go on. Smiley, winky face. Whatever. So, I don't know. I mean, it doesn't reference what comment that's a response to, so there's just not much you can do with it. So there's another 22 of these things. Shit. This is definitely gonna be a long video. I'm not gonna read all of it. I'll just try to go through as much as fast as possible. Blah blah blah. And we'll be done with this. Stop telling people what they would say and start asking them. Isn't that an interesting statement in itself? They've already said it, and frankly, there's no point in doing that. I mean, you have to take what you say. You have to take responsibility for what you say. If you say like there's a God, then you have an obligation to come up with some explanation of where God came from. You know, if God's supposed to be an answer to creation, well, it's not a very good answer to the question of creation if you can't explain where it came from. That you are telling people that it is wrong to have children is a feeble quality. Fable quality. Is of fable quality. Feeble. Fable. F-A-B-L-E. Whatever. That you are telling people that it's wrong to have children is a fable quality, and based on your intuitive understanding, again, this has nothing to do with intuition, of the way things should be. I think I've already read this. No, that's just totally incorrect. Yeah, I'm sorry, now I'm just distracted by this. This sounds familiar. Maybe post it on another video. Anyway, look, I drew the conclusion little pieces at a time through my own maturation. But I'm just saying, it's quite obviously the most serious thing you can do on planet Earth is play creator or play God. I understood that when I was a kid, that this was an act of significance, and that having a kid would be a colossally huge responsibility, and one, for that reason alone, I personally would have no interest in, just because I knew it was so dangerous and so colossally consuming as an obligation. It would be not just a ball and chain. It would be a harsh imprisonment of my entire identity, in that I would be consumed with the worry and concern about my creation. So for me, it was already something I wouldn't take on the responsibility, because I already knew it was too much of a responsibility for me to handle. I mean, it was just out of control. There's just no way I could do it and win. It would ruin me, having a child. The worry alone would kill me. And the fact that it doesn't even occur to you fuckers, I think it's just an indication of just how preposterously ignorant you are, how delusional and silly you are in your inability to see the real implications and consequences of your actions. If you are, let's see, I think people should take the question of what circumstance to bring children into seriously. Well, you didn't write that very well. Yeah, well, that's all just talk, right? If you're not going to put anything behind that, it doesn't mean anything. Telling people, I think it should be serious, then it sounds like you're talking out of intuition. You're talking out of your fables of what things should be in some kind of meaningless way. I'm saying it in a lot more overtly meaningful way. If you are to have children, but I also don't try to dominate people's thinking on the subject. Well, you either think something's right or you think it's wrong. I mean, obviously, if you think taking it casually is wrong, which I guess you don't, you say, like I said, you say the words, I think they should take it seriously, but there's no penalty if they don't. So what's the point of your statement? Does it mean anything? You really don't think they should take it seriously because you don't think there should be any penalty for not taking it seriously. So obviously it can't be very serious if you don't have a penalty for a violation. How can anybody take something seriously if you're not going to penalize it? How could people take rape seriously if there's no penalty for it? I mean, it's just stupid. I respect that we will likely never agree on the issue. And I suspect that people who will never agree should fight it out to the death, and somebody should win the day and be done with it. Yeah, because sitting around not agreeing forever is not very sustainable, comfortable, or useful. Is anybody calling you stupid because you sense things should be a certain way that you will never be able to logically justify as something absolute? You're saying I can't logically justify. I think I have logically justified. I think the logic is so goddamn simple it's disgusting. And for you to say there is no logical justification for me to say my feelings are significant, they're a significant event in the universe, and that other people's feelings are a significant event in the universe, you think you have a counter-argument for that statement? I don't think you have a counter-argument. I think you're full of shit. As if the way you see things is the only way that things can possibly make sense. I'm just saying, if you're gonna say I'm wrong, you have to make an argument, not an argument that says you're wrong. You have to do more than you're wrong, and you're not doing any more than that. Or you have to propose a counter theory that makes some kind of sense. Now, if your counter theory is going to be God says so, well, that's not going to work. So what's your counter theory? The magic unicorn says so? Life is a parasitic infestation on planet Earth. The attrition rates are obscene. The forces of nature, evolution, natural selection, the complexification of elemental matter, none of those things have brains. None of those things are capable of creating in some sort of disciplined or responsible manner. None of those things can drive straight down the road, so to speak. And why should there be any expectation that they did it acceptably? No, the expectation should be that they're driving drunk. And we should be scrutinizing what's going on. And if you do scrutinize it honestly, you'll see that it's just a preposterously stupid King of the Hill game with real blood and guts. Again, the attrition rates are somewhere approaching hundreds to 1. You're destroying and harming and torturing hundreds of victims to have one victim survive to maturation. It's just a disgustingly stupid, idiotic bloodbath of horror, and you're sitting there voting for it, which makes you a fucking disgusting, sadistic asshole. A bigger question is, how can you justify the way you have arranged things is the only possible way that things make sense? Again, I can only make the argument. If you don't agree that sensations are the most significant events in the universe, then you don't agree, okay? You think, whatever, nebulas going sparkly are more important, or you think the craters on the moon are more important, or how thick the dust on the moon is more important. Well, I'd say it's silly and insipid for somebody to draw that conclusion. So I'd call you an idiot. You're silly and insipid. It's the only possible valid rhetorical argument of ideas. Is the only possible valid and rational argument of ideas. I don't even know what that means. Question mark. I don't know. It's not a very coherent question. Alright, if somebody thinks it's okay for slaves to force Jews into concentration camps, what? It's okay to own slaves, to force Jews into concentration camps, or spray acid on a woman's face for getting an education. I'm damn well going to call them thinking out as irrational. Okay, so it's somebody on my side, so to speak. And then a Konova's response. Here we go. People reasoning will never evolve with this I live and let live mindset. They sometimes need to learn certain truths the hard way. Totalitarianism. So that's his response. So his response to the fact that civilization makes it possible to mitigate against the grotesquest of the harms, like we can have some sort of peace and we can certainly free slaves, and we can certainly liberate women from control of men. So he's basically arguing that if you're to pass laws that would prevent a man from throwing acid in a woman's face, you're a totalitarian. I mean, really, this is his argument, isn't it? Totalitarianism. Right, let's all joyfully cast aside the idea of progress forever. There is more there, but let's see if it's worth it. And where do you think that will lead? Idiocracy, correct. Poodle Susan. So it's okay to impose life, but not okay to try to dominate people's thinking on the subject. Your defeatist position is built to fail. Yeah. Well, clearly, again, they're saying that we're not competent to figure out something simple like evolution, figure out the context of our dilemma in life, where we have to do this value exchanging, where I have to gain my satisfaction out of the world without destroying it or polluting it or shitting in the wrong places, that I have a certain obligation not to shit in people's drinking water and do all these other things. And this is our dilemma in existing on this planet. So that's too bold a statement. But it's not too bold to say, I'm sure life is fun and I'm going to impose it on a little kid. I'm sure he's going to appreciate it. I'm sure, even if he gets ALS, he'll still love me for it. I mean, so which one requires more arrogance and obnoxiousness? Recognizing the simple truth of evolution and the dilemma of being a sentient organism on Earth and the danger that you represent, or being this arrogant asshole who says, I'm a silly optimist who wishes to ignore all the negatives and pretend everything's going to be okay. And we know what the pretend everything's going to be okayers have done to the world, don't we? I mean, please. Alright. My name guy again. Nitpicking question mark. That's interesting. If you took my words at face value, I suppose at your outlook you would be little changed, because after all I'm only nitpicking. Yes, you're not even nitpicking. It's some sort of sophistry thing. You know, you're just playing these little word games and you don't say anything. Nothing really of much consequence in these statements. In these statements? I guess it's statements, I don't know. I can reflect on if life seems worth living, and how I feel about having children will be influenced by that, as if only negative states existed or people can't learn to behave. Well, nobody's saying it's the only thing that exists. The point is you can't assign risk for somebody else. That's the problem. So it's not that it's not possible that what you're giving them isn't a gift to them. The problem is you have no way, there's no undo button. And if you fuck it up, you can't clean it up. So it's like the nuclear power plant thing. You either know what you're doing and you do it right, or you don't do it at all. Because you just can't afford the failure. You just, you can't understand that? You can't understand that you'll have a higher responsibility when you're gambling with somebody else's money? Damn it. Or people can't learn to behave more responsibly, or that it wasn't worth the effort to try. Well, I'm just saying, obviously it's not worth any effort. Life is stupid at its very core, but that's not even the argument you need to understand that it's still way beyond your pay grade, way beyond your competence to be playing fucking God. You're not competent. It's just the simple truth. You can't control the experiment, therefore you can't do the experiment. I'm glad my parents, for all their flaws, were not anti-natalists. And I'm just the opposite. I'm sad that my parents were too stupid to see that it was a frivolous and idiotic thing to do, and that they should have done something to be more productive in the world than make more anuses to shit more shit into the world. So really, 1 against 1 then, right? Are we going to just keep score of people's opinions, or are you going to actually make a logical argument? Because saying you're glad isn't a logical argument. Let's just joyfully cast aside the idea of progress forever. So, in Anticonivad's response, so our choices are narrowed to one between totalitarianism and idiocracy. Well, yeah, that's sort of the game, right? You have to pay for civilization. You don't understand that? Then I think you're an idiot. Yeah, I'll take idiocracy over the killing fields. Well, again, so you're the one saying there's no such thing as civilization, there's just killing fields. So all law is totalitarianism. All law is bad. All law is murder. I mean that's you're the one being a preposterous abuser of the rhetoric here. But what else is new? We already knew that. You're saying it's okay to dominate people's thinking. What methods are okay in altering how people think? Uh, Altering how people... Yeah, persuasion, shithead. I make arguments on the internet. You know, for all your fucking idiotic hysteria. Yeah, that's all I'm doing. I'm making a fucking argument, you jackasses. What's wrong with dominating a person's thoughts? May the best argument win. Yeah, exactly. Let's see. Brutal Susan again. Dominate. Have a commanding influence upon. Tell me how compelling one to acknowledge the truth is somehow wrong. You can't, because likely you don't even acknowledge truth exists. Your position is built to fail. Well, his position isn't built to fail. It's built to fail in the sense that yes, he will not be a successful, productive human being. He will be a menace and a slob and an asshole. He will live an asshole's life because he will refuse to acknowledge the game he's really playing. He wants to pretend he's not playing the game that we're playing. The game we're playing is a place where you're going to have pragmatic and real value exchanges. The truth will be that you can spend $10 today or you can spend $10 million tomorrow. You can do it right today for an extra $10, or you can pay a huge price tomorrow for the failure of not doing it right the first time. You know, these are just simple truths of life. Please tell me how compelling one to acknowledge the truth is somehow wrong. Oh, some kind of French crap. Couldn't have said it better. I don't know what that means, but who cares? Is totalitarian the new buzzword anti-nihilists are using now? You guys are already getting tired of calling AN a cult? Well, you know, it's the same difference, isn't it? We're the Reich, or the regime, or the nation, you know. So, I mean, he's doing this. It's still the same argument. So, Anticonivade, don't say an anti-nihilist is totalitarian. I said that the way you describe the moral imperative behind it is totalitarian and blatantly so. I don't understand. So describing an obligation that you think is a logical imperative, one that just logically follows, is totalitarian. Yeah, I don't think so. The only thing I described is the ethical dilemma of reproduction and how people need to at least recognize this dilemma. Never mind going on with you. You were a blatant troll and you're strawmanned my argument one time too many. Yeah, well, that's all he's got is slanders. So here's his response, quoting him. What do you mean by the hard way? Sometimes they need to learn certain truths the hard way. What do you mean the hard way? That means they have to fail, and somebody says, I told you so. Yeah. Are you saying it's okay to dominate people's thinking with methods are okay and altering how people think? Who's dominating? I don't know, I'll go through all that crap again. Anticonivade. And what is the action of that which AN, who you think you're implying is an aggressor, are you using to dominate? What actions would you consider appropriate? I'll leave that question to an AN. Well, look, actions that would be appropriate would be maybe making people who have kids pay the full freight for their kids instead of forcing people who don't have kids to subsidize kids. So yeah, make them pay for their kids' education, make them pay for their kids' health care. These are simple disincentives to having children. that would be fairly imposed. Certainly welfare checks might come with an obligation to get sterilized, that kind of crap. It's only fair. Since they are the ones making the case. I'm just saying, I think if people are already not procreating in civilized countries, sufficient to maintain human existence. So I'm just saying, if you make them pay the full freight, they'll even be procreating less, and then we just tell the third world, yeah, no more UN food unless you grow up and grow a brain. Live and let live are simultaneously, what does that mean? What would save us from inflicting victimhood that comes from human beings? It still would not solve the problem of the possibility of suffering, something like that. And the Condovan, no, let's get to his, here it is. So you're saying, you're calling life an imposition in itself as an example of domineering. Nope. Nope. So that's the extent of his argument. He's saying that he's not saying that it's a tyranny to tell people they're irresponsible assholes. But apparently it is, because that's all we've done, isn't it? Yeah, isn't that the only crime we're guilty of? Anyway, calling people out in general, blah blah blah, that's the quoted part. His answer is, I guess, here, even if they are truly wrong by those definitions, and I never said totalitarianism is wrong. Oh, well, you know, please. You know, okay, you want to get any more disgusting and abusive rhetoric. I mean, we all know that totalitarian is associated with somebody who is imposing a false ideology, a dogma. Never, ever, ever in the history of mankind has the word totalitarian been used to describe somebody who's imposing something good, like, you know, a polio vaccine. So don't insult my intelligence this much. We'll go ahead and do it, but I'm just saying, fuck you. What, you think I'm going to fall for that? Fuck you. Then what is need to even have said that, to bait AN, to bait Gary? By whose definition? And I never said totalitarianism is wrong. I said totalitarianism is undesirable in the extreme, but wrong, question mark? There's probably no such state. You know, how can anybody make any sense out of that crap? I don't know which is quotes and which are statements here, so there's just, you know, sorry, no point in doing that. And a Kantavad. This is the quoted part. Then, what is the need to even have said that? Said what? Oh, so here we go again. That the following statement, people's reasoning will never evolve with this live and let live mindset. I said it because it does sound totalitarian. Sounds pretty totalitarian. I said it because it does sound totalitarian. So it sounds totalitarian to say that people need law. People need civilizing law. That's totalitarianism. Okay. Is there any really, it's no point in having conversations if people are going to play games with the words like that, right? I didn't say it was. I said the original statement was totalitarian, and I stand by that. Yeah, well, whatever. So anyway, that's enough. I believe we're done. I mean, there's more silly comments, but you know, I think I've done enough silly comments. Let's see, the no-name guy, what else he said here? On the event of having a knife stuck in the eye, this is an important issue. Why not keep it simple and press this particular issue? Well, I have pressed it. I have said it in a lot of videos. I mean, I use it as an example a lot. The ranting adds little substance. Well, whatever. Again, the ranting only exists because you people lie a lot. And people have to defend themselves against slanders constantly. Being called Hitler because you're defending the rights of animals not to be tortured and abused. Yeah, I think I should be a little ranty. And just feeds a shit-flinging contest. Well, again, I don't see you giving the other side of this argument any of these instructions. So why don't you give Anticontavad some instructions? Yeah, but this is something simple you can work on. Yeah, well, you can go work on whatever. Seeing if you can stick your head another foot up your ass. If you have specific contextual issues, push the issue instead of assuming that people's responses to them will be because of how you interpret what they said. Oh, come on. It's pretty hard to misinterpret a video that uses the Khmer Rouge, Adolf Hitler. He didn't use Stalin this time, but he often does use Stalin. It's pretty hard to not understand what game's being played, asshole. So that's probably enough. Oh, this guy is a real idiot. If the lion had created this system, then this lion would have obligation. But the lion did not create the system. It was merely thrust into it, unwillingly so. Yeah, that's like saying, well, you inherited slaves and therefore you have no obligation to the slaves. You inherited them, so you just can keep them and abuse them all you want. That's just silly. If the lion acquires intelligence, he's got the burden. And he can either take full responsibility for the badness of his design, or he can wimp out and make excuses and rationalizations to be an asshole. But those are his choices. It may not be his fault that he exists, but he still has to take responsibility for what he did with his existence. If he has a brain and if you have information, you have knowledge that you have bad brakes in your car, for example. Somebody gave you the car and it has bad brakes. It's not your fault they gave you a car with bad brakes, but it has bad brakes. Okay, now you're going to have to decide whether to drive it or not. And you're going to be the one held responsible. And you're held responsible logically, sensibly. Anyway, till next time. So anyway, sorry, really long video. This is, yeah, there's more to come. Sorry.
Whoa, okay, camera failure. I lost the video. Oh, damn it. So, starting over, or doing it again. Maybe the other video is still salvageable, so I try to make this different. Say the same thing in a different way. So this whole value thing, yes, value is not material. Value is an idea. It's a good idea, though. It's a reasonable idea. It's what an intelligence is going to do is concern itself with performance issues. It's going to recognize problems and solve them with solutions. And those will be weighted, based on concepts like productivity and efficiency. So when you come to this human functionality, the most obvious function we have, beyond all the physical bullshit, is this idea that we feel, that we have sensations. And there's the most obvious of distinctions is between this idea of a nail in your eye and, something comforting and enjoyable. And there's this huge distance between those two outcomes for an event. You never want nail in the eye to be the outcome. And you want to be happy and comfortable and satisfied. But it's not just a programmed response. The want isn't some sort of mechanical thing that has no integrity. It's just clearly it's automatic, but we can feel the legitimacy of it. The feelings themselves have the qualitative element. We don't impose the qualitative element. We don't make bad by having a reaction to it. The sensations are intrinsically, fundamentally, their very nature is to be unpleasant or pleasant. It's the very function of the sensation to create a value impression. It's their mission statement. We are sentient for that reason, to create what might be called a value engine, to create a mechanism that makes it important, that makes our welfare important, that makes our behavior important, that makes our outcome important. And that's what this feeling mechanism does. It makes things important. It's the very nature of it. It's the reason it exists. And you don't need to logically go any further than to acknowledge that that's the engine. The engine is itself a value creator. It creates importance. It creates significance by creating sensations that are intrinsically significant, unignorable, tainted, completely and thoroughly with negative and positive. You can't confuse the two, in most cases. It screams its nature as positive or negative. Says it, a nail in your eye, says it very loudly. This is not good. And so anyway, that's where it starts. It starts with this personal observation regarding a common experience, an experience that isn't personal to me, an experience that is understood by all sentient life. The difference between these comforting sensations and these obnoxious sensations. All feeling life observes them and can confirm their existence. So it's not a subjective interpretation of reality. It's clearly a reasonable, sensible, logical description of the reality to say we possess a value engine in having sentience, that there is value in our feelings, there's value in how we feel, and it's just the truth of it. So then you go from there to the next logical step, which is just acknowledgement that you're not the only one doing it. So through personal experience, I gain knowledge of its existence. I don't need it explained to me. I don't need it described to me. I know what sensations are. I know their qualitative character. And I can easily deduce that it's the same for the other sentient beings. My feelings aren't the only feelings. My feelings aren't special feelings. My feelings aren't more important feelings. The feelings are the thing that has the character, not the character having the feelings. So the value exists in the experience, not in the experiencer. So logically, there's no reason, no rational reason for me to think it's better for me to be comfortable than for somebody else to be comfortable. Certainly as a selfish person, I might rationalize causes for me to come first, or me to be fed first, or me to be pleased first, but none of that would be logical or reasonable. That would be just selfish rationalizations. The truth is, there's no difference between me making myself comfortable and me making someone else comfortable. As an action, the productivity of the comfort is the value. The who's doing it, who's receiving it, is not particularly relevant or important. And the third step, logically, is to recognize that the other sentient organisms, the rest of the mammals, and many other life forms on this planet are also sensate. They also are having value experiences in terms of having a welfare stake, having a capacity to be in a good or bad condition, psychologically, based on what they feel, based on how they feel. They can be in positive or negative states of being, value states. Logically, I don't think there can be a sentence or a paragraph or a statement written that could logically explain how it wouldn't matter or wouldn't mean anything, if a billion sentient, non-human sentients were being tortured, that it wouldn't be something that a rational, sensible, and logical thinking person could understand as being a bad thing. That it wouldn't be the same as a dish rag or a bar of soap or a leaf or a pile of dirt. That the event of sentient creatures experiencing sensations is in many ways, in most substantial ways, no different than my sensations. A nail in a chimpanzee's eye is just as big a disaster as a nail in my eye. The sensations that will be felt will be substantially parallel, substantially comparable in substance, and that's just a logical deduction. It's just a reasonable extrapolation of the knowledge I've gained by being sentient. Being sentient, I'm now aware of what it means to be sentient, and I can understand that the sensations are fundamentally meaningful and powerfully valuable. I learned that through my personal experience, and I merely apply it to the factual circumstance that I live on a planet with many organisms capable of experiencing those sensations. It's just logic, and so opens the door to the value arena. You enter the monetary system of value exchange, comfort for suffering. And I'm just saying, with logic, you can understand that you can't profit at somebody else's loss. It just isn't going to work. Slavery doesn't work. It just doesn't work. You can't. You can't. Damn, I should think of the word. You can't displace or dispose of, or there's another word for it. But generally, you can't take away the payment by forcing somebody else to pay it. That doesn't change the debt. Having somebody else pay the debt doesn't mean the debt went away. It still had to be paid. Yeah, it's probably a way of saying that. And I didn't think of it. Yeah, asparagus. Yeah, my asparagus ferns. They're really asparagus's. Hey, Pally. Yeah, you were in the other video, but it might be deleted. Anyway. So that's enough for now. So till next time and such. Camera won't stay on. This is a bad day. Anyway, hopefully this video is still here. Well, I can't really tell by looking. It'd be terrible if I threw that away, all that work. But anyway, it wasn't really work, but you know what I mean. It's just, yeah, it wasn't a bad video. Yeah, really irritating. Yeah, sorry. So it's just kind of distracting because I'm like, jeez, what is this? I haven't had this much camera trouble in a while. It's just kind of irritating to have 3 cameras in a row, have issues. Anyway, every one I pick up, it's got a problem that it didn't have a month ago. But anyway, sorry. Moving on. Next, where was I? Yeah, there's no need to get into the nuances of, doing this complex math of the exchange rate of these, satisfied ambitions versus, potential damage and who gets the damage and all that stuff. It's certainly, these are valid conversations, but they don't really have much to do with the fundamental subject of whether this is accessible from our perspective, and is this a universally accessible, in the sense that we all know that the bottom line basically is, what do you feel? Why you feel doesn't really matter too much. What you feel does. It's nice to have the whys, there's reason to, fix bad whys, whys that don't need to exist, whys that create a problem for people in terms of their efficiency or capacity to be happy, are comfortable. But the real issue in the end, in the ultimate scoring of the game, the only thing that's going to matter is what did people feel, what happened. Intentions don't really matter. Nothing else really matters in the end product. It'll be success or failure. Good intentions are nice, but they don't change outcomes. In terms of, they change outcomes in the sense beforehand. It's good to have good intentions. It certainly is. It's a good idea to start with a good intention, not a bad intention. You're more likely not to fail. Having a bad intention, yeah, that sounds like you're kind of almost guaranteeing failure. So anyway, but bad people all the time do good things, by accident, by no fault of their own. They, do the world a favor by doing something selfish and rotten. It's like they accidentally run over Adolf Hitler drunk driving, something like that. Anyway, that's tense. Yeah, that is a nice day. Yeah, lovely. Trees are starting to turn and such. Anyway, so till next time, and maybe I'll do an add-on and whatnot, or maybe not. We'll see. Yeah. Till then, such. So forth and whatnot.